Hello again and welcome to In the Kitchen with Halifax Public Libraries. My name is Andy Hay and it's absolutely lovely to see you today. We've got a very exciting day, something that's very familiar, but we're going to do a very cool twist on it. One of my favorite ways to eat food in general is out of the almighty bowl. So many ways to eat, so many ways to fill this amazing bowl. So we're going to do a really cool one today with something that you absolutely know from home. We've all seen it, we all love it, Mr. Noodles. But today we're going to make Doctor Noodles. It is a play on that lovely comforting dish that we're going to add a lot more flavor, a lot more technique that I'm excited for you to be able to apply to not only this recipe but all the recipes that you make at home. So let's kick on. There's a couple really cool things that we're going to do today. The first thing we're going to talk about is pickling. Pickling is an amazing way to add flavor, preserve really good vegetables, but it just makes vegetables that much more exciting. There's two really great vegetables that I love to pickle that turn beautiful colors and just look so absolutely incredible. We're going to do what's called a quick pickle, so this doesn't take very long, of cucumber. This is fresh cucumber out of my garden, and some red onions. Red onions are amazing pickled. They take very little time and you can put them on absolutely everything in your kitchen. So let's start right there. So before we get those prepped up, actually, you know what, let's prep those up right away. So we're gonna grab a sharp knife and we'll grab a little bowl here so we can chuck our garbage into, or our scraps. Just move some stuff around. All right, so let's start off with this red onion, silly. So what we're going to do here is clean off some of the skin. So I've talked about this one before in another video, but dicing onions and slicing onions can be annoying sometimes. So what we're going to do is we're going to slice this into nice wedges. This makes it just easier to eat once they're pickled. So we're just going to cut right down the middle. We'll probably only use a half for this recipe. We're going to make sure all that outer skin has been peeled off, so just take your time there and peel that off. It should be easier than that. There we go. All right, that's looking good. You can keep that little stem on at the bottom, no issue there. We'll clean up the top part, no problem. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is just kind of make these into different slices. So we're just gonna slice relatively thin as we can, no problem if it's a little bit thick, and just slice them off like so. I would say take the time, slice a full onion. These will become a craveable thing for you and the family. So just slice them all off. No rush here. You can make these the day before. They stay in the fridge literally for months once you get these all made. So we're just going to continue to slice, get those ready to rock. Those are looking beautiful. I love the color. Cooking with color makes it so fun. You eat with your eyes as well, so that's crucial when you're starting to think what dishes look like. Try to make it as bright as possible. Usually if it's bright, it means that it's healthy as well. That's just a quick way to see, am I eating a healthy meal right now? Same thing with cucumbers. We'll slice them super thin as you can. We'll just get a couple of those ready to rock. Again, same thing with the onions. These will last in the fridge beautifully. Just while I'm slicing here, I'll show you a quick thing for knife skills. We talked about this before, but to hold a knife properly, make sure that you place your thumb and your index finger on the actual blade of the knife. That will give you way more control. Sometimes I see people cooking like this and you just don't have the same level of control. So start there. And then what you can do is use your middle finger, your index finger, and your ring finger kind of as a guard. So tuck your fingernails in, and then just run the knife downwards, and then slide your fingers back. So you don't have to worry about slicing your fingers here in any way. It just allows you to move a little bit quicker, and it's just practice. A sharp knife helps keep things safe as well. So those are looking great. So we've got the veg prepped, ready to go. We'll set those there. Now, for the pickling liquid itself. This is very easy to do. And there's not really a recipe, just what we're going to talk about today is just kind of what goes into a pickling liquid. And it's really not a lot. It's 3 ingredients mainly. So what we're going to have here is I've got some white sugar, some salt, and then we'll also just use some standard vinegar. So what I'm going to do is grab a pot. I'm going to put that pot on about medium heat. It doesn't have to be too hot because the heat is just going to help us dissolve the salt and the sugar. So what we're going to do here is put in probably like 2 spoonfuls of salt and then equal amount of sugar. So So just 2 of those as well. You can season this further if you want to put peppercorns, that's delicious. Anything to add a little bit of flavor. Star anise is lovely if you want to add in some different Asian flavors there as well. So then we'll pour in, I'd say, about a cup and a half of white vinegar. And then we're just going to let that heat up and allow the salt and the sugar to fully dissolve. You can give it a little bit of a stir, and that'll just take some time. I can smell that already. And lastly, what I'm going to do as well is put in a cup of water, just to dilute that down just a little bit so it's not too vinegary, not too strong of a flavor. So we're just going to let that cook away. Once that's dissolved, we're done with that component. So while that cooks away, let's move on to the second part. This is something that I'm so excited to talk about today: tofu. I feel like people hear tofu and they're immediately like, oh, Andy, really? We're cooking tofu? Trust me when I say this, we're gonna make the most delicious tofu you've ever eaten. I guarantee it. So what I have here is extra firm tofu. I took this out of the package, drained out the water, and then actually just let it sit in some paper towel so it soaks up as much as the moisture as possible. So that's step 1, is get that done and out of the way. Now what we're gonna do is chop this tofu into little cubes. So I'm just gonna run the knife down here, chop this into little strips like so. Then all we're gonna do there is take one of those chunks, lay it on its side, cut down that way, and then we'll cut those into little cubes. So that is what we're looking for. We're just gonna chop them into these little cubes, which are so lovely. I'm very excited for you to try these. So this is step 1. We'll get all of those ready and into that bowl. And tofu is one of these things, it's so high in protein. When you eat this will keep you full for so long, so much energy. But trust me when I say, I will not lead you astray here. They will also be crazy delicious. I crave these now. In some ways, this has similar texture once we're done to fried chicken. It's amazing in these bowls. Great for breakfast, great for dinner. Tons of energy, tons of protein, a great vegetarian option. So we've got all those tofu cubed up. So now it's time to season. So season, we'll start out with some salt. Just pour in a couple pinches of salt. I'm gonna put in just a touch of sugar. Sometimes if you're doing pan frying, just a little bit of sugar will do some great job on the caramelization. So that's done there. I'm gonna add in a little bit of pepper. Any spices that you have in your cupboards, just use that. Don't feel like you need to follow exactly. It's more the framework that we're putting in front of us here that you should follow as much as you can. I've got a little bit of onion powder, garlic powder would be great, cumin, curry powder, anything that you have will be awesome for these. The key ingredient that I like to use to make sure that we get that nice crispy exterior is cornstarch. You could use flour. This is totally gluten-free if you want to use cornstarch. I really like cornstarch because what this does is it will soak up any additional liquid that is left remaining in the tofu itself, and this will actually make it super crispy as well. Cornstarch can make a huge mess in your kitchen, so just be careful and just give that a little toss. And you can just see from that, it's soaking up all that excess liquid, it's coating those blocks really, really nicely. So that is what we're looking for right there. So we're just gonna sit that off to the side for a moment. We'll have a peek back at our pickling liquid. It's starting to dissolve all that sugar and all that salt. We're getting very close there, very exciting. I love this meal. I made this a lot in university, so hopefully you enjoy this one at home. Okay, so next up, while we're just waiting for that to dissolve a little bit more, we'll get started on the sauce itself for this dish. So I spent some time in Southeast Asia and picked up some of these flavor profiles that I really love to cook with at home. One of them is soy sauce, a lovely addition to any cooking that you're doing, and rice wine vinegar. These two ingredients go together like salt and pepper. If you use soy, balance it out with a little bit of rice wine, it's lovely. I'm gonna add into the sauce as well a little bit of lime. I've got some fresh ginger here that's really lovely. Another great way to add a ton of flavor to your meals is fresh ginger, a little bit of garlic, some fresh cilantro if you like cilantro. It's a bit of a polarizing flavor. I love it. So we might add a little touch of that. And I've got some green onions there as well. So this is not complicated. Don't worry too much about measuring all this off. I'd say we'll put in about 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, a similar amount of that soy sauce, mix it all in there so you can see that lovely dark color, maybe a little bit more, maybe 3 tablespoons of the soy. So that's looking great there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of lime juice. So limes, lemons, oranges, if you want to get that juice out of it, one trick to do to get more juice out of the lime is to actually put it down on the cutting board and just roll it back and forth under your hand, and that will release even more of the juices, which is what we're looking for. So from there, I'm just going to slice down the center of that lime and give that a squeeze directly into the bowl. That lime juice is going to give a ton of freshness and great vibrancy to this sauce, which will, at the very end, pour over all the noodles and the tofu, and it's super delicious. So we'll just toss that out there. So that's looking good. We're going to use a little bit of ginger. Ginger is a great ingredient. I love to use ginger. The trick here is don't feel like you need to take the skin off the ginger. It's not a big deal, but if you did want to take it off, the best way to take skin off ginger is using a spoon. So just lay it down on the cutting board and just run the spoon over the ginger peel, and it really quickly comes off. This is so much easier than using a knife and trying to peel it. You'll stress yourself out, and again, we don't get stressed while we're cooking. It's supposed to be relaxing. Never stress about cooking. You're just making food. If you make a mistake, you're gonna have to eat again tomorrow, so we'll try again. No problem there at all. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of that ginger and give this a little bit of a chop. We don't need a ton of ginger for this dipping sauce or this sauce that we're making, so I'll just chop off a little bit there and dice that up nice and small. Alright, that's looking good. Ginger gives a really nice, pungent, fresh flavor. It balances very well with all the other ingredients that we're putting in there. So I'm putting in about a teaspoon of fresh ginger. You can kind of see what that's looking like. You can smell it already. I love this smell. I love this dressing. You can use this on everything. It gets very, very addictive. A lovely ponzu sauce is what I like to call it. What this is called. So with the garlic, we'll add in some as well. A little bit of fresh garlic. Give that a little chop. Okay, next up, we're going to get a little bit of pickling going on with our cucumbers. So we're going to have a bowl right here. We'll add our cucumbers in, and these will last for so long in your fridge. They're very addicting. I know I have a ton of cucumbers from my garden this year, so I have so many pickled cucumbers in my fridge. So same thing applies here. We'll just let that rest. I'd say give that 25 minutes to an hour, and it's good to go. So just that part is now done. We are looking very good. Okay, next up, back to the tofu. Oh. So that tofu, you can see, has sucked up so much of that cornstarch. It's a very, all that moisture is gone. I might add in a touch more cornstarch just to make sure it's totally nice and dry is what we're looking for there. Okay, so now we've got a pan that I've had on heating up. We're gonna want that over medium-high heat. I'm just gonna take a second here and tidy some of this up. We've got that over medium-high heat. So what I'm going to do now is add in a little bit of oil. So when you're cooking something or frying something, you're going to want to use an oil that has a really high smoke point. So if I tried to do this in butter or olive oil, your kitchen would fill with smoke. So the key here is you're going to want to use an oil that doesn't smoke. So I'm going to use a canola oil. You could use avocado, grapeseed oil, vegetable oil. All has really high smoke points, which will help to hopefully not make the fire alarm go off in your home. So I'm going to add in a couple tablespoons into the pan itself. I know that pan is quite hot right now, so you'll be able to tell just the oil will actually shimmer a little bit, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, I'm going to give this a little bit more of a toss so you can see exactly what we're looking like there. Okay, so tofu, this is about to change your life. You will thank me after you try this one at home. So we're going to lay in the tofu directly into the pan. You can hear that sizzling away. That's what you want. When you're cooking, use all your senses. You want to smell food, you want to touch it, you want to taste it, you want to hear it. Right now, you don't want to put this into a cold pan because the tofu actually won't sizzle. It'll more steam because the pan's not hot enough, but I can hear that that pan is nice and hot. You can hear it just crisping away there. That's what we're looking for. We want this to be nice and crispy on the outside. Just makes the texture of this dish so lovely and nice. Tofu is a great ingredient because it absorbs so much flavor. but cooking it this way and this method gives it a beautiful texture, very similar, like I mentioned before, to like a fried chicken. So next up, those lovely ramen noodles. So any package that you get, they're at every single grocery store, and they're very cheap and very delicious. So what we're going to do here is, I might just do one at a time. I've got a pot of boiling water that I salted. Whenever you're cooking pasta, always put some salt into the water. You do that for two reasons. It actually lowers the boiling temperature of the water itself, but then it also seasons. Salt is crucial for cooking delicious food. So I'm just going to take this, follow the instructions on the back of the package. This needs to boil for about 3 minutes. So I'm just going to drop that in there. I'm going to use my spoon to break that apart once it's ready to be broken apart. But that's looking good. I might crank the temperature a little bit on that one. So that's looking really good here. Okay, this dish is coming together very quickly. So again, to recap where we're at, we have this amazing ponzu sauce that will change your life. We get the pickled red onions, the pickled cucumbers. We're gonna have these crispy tofu bites, and then we're gonna have that ramen as the base. We're gonna toss that all together, and this is an amazing, super flavorful, very easy to throw together meal that I think will become part of your repertoire. I've got some room in there, so I'm just gonna pop that in as well. So with these noodles, you're gonna wanna boil them for about 3 minutes. It's looking real good there. We're almost ready. I'm gonna give this tofu a little check, see how it's coming along. You wanna make sure that it's beautifully crispy on the bottom. I'm gonna crank that heat up a little bit too. Probably, I've got it about up on high now. So that's what we're gonna wanna look for. You're gonna see this start to brown up and get nice and crispy. If you are using flour at home, this will turn into a much darker brown, which is a lovely color. I like using cornstarch because I find it just crisps up. It gets a little bit more crispy. You lose a little bit of the coloring, but I think it's a good what's the word I'm looking for? It's a good option to do because I just find it really gets so nice and crispy and gives you that fried chicken texture that we're looking for. All right, this is getting very close on the noodles. Again, this is a meal that you can pull together in 20 minutes max. Really, you're just waiting for things to pickle. All right, now we're getting that lovely color. I'm telling you, this tofu is gonna change your life. You can add a ton of flavor into this. I love using curry powder in the tofu and just really get adventurous. A lot of the stuff that we're showing here today, don't feel like you need to follow exactly the recipe or the recipe list that I have. Just learn from kind of some of the techniques and then apply them. Look what's in your fridge, what you have available, and just try to season properly and make dishes that based on what you have in your fridge. That's really what makes good cooking, is how resourceful you are, what you have in your fridge, what you can make happen with very little. Some of the best food in the world, that's how it was developed, was just based on there wasn't access to every single ingredient and you just had to make it work with what's around. All right, just gonna give this all a flip now. You're seeing some lovely color coming here. Oh yeah, that is what we're looking for. Some nice, really nice color. Colored up more than I thought it would. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And this tofu is like a sponge for flavor. So we're gonna see when we put that ponzu sauce, that rice wine vinegar, that lime juice, soy sauce is just gonna get absorbed into this crispy tofu. This is really good. This is one of my favorite go-to meals. It's a great lunch, great dinner. I actually have this tofu for breakfast oftentimes too because it's just great energy. All right, we're gonna let that toast away for a couple more minutes. Our noodles are done, so I'm just gonna strain that water out. Okay, how are these looking? Okay, I'm gonna add a touch of salt. Salt is something that you add in as you're cooking more and more. Salt absorbs differently depending on where the vegetables or whatever you're cooking are at in their cooking process. So season as you go. Little by little, build the flavor. That's an important part of cooking too, is you don't just ram all flavor in at once. Take your time. There's building blocks that you're working towards when cooking. So just take your time, season as you go. We can give this a little bit of lime juice if you wanted to have a little bit of freshness. But I can tell you right now that this is looking very good. So what I'm gonna do next is get that serving bowl ready. I can see that this is nearly there. Maybe we want to have the ability that people add a little bit of lime juice into their own dish. So we'll slice off a little bit of lime for serving, because again, we eat with our eyes as well. We want to make sure this looks nice and pretty. We'll get maybe some fresh cilantro Oh no, I forgot we had some of this. We're gonna go with some green onions here. Green onions are a lovely ingredient. I love them. I cook so much with them. If you want to make this look a little bit fancier, which I always like to do, is what we can do, and I just want to make sure you can see that, is we can actually slice it on a bias. So just so you can kind of see the angle there. If you slice it this way, this is a little bit of a chef's secret, it just makes it look a little bit more fancier than just straight across. That diagonal is lovely. All right, that's looking good. Get that off to the side. Okay. You can hear the crispiness on that. That's there. Okay, we're looking good. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get this all tossed together. I'm going to put those noodles directly into a larger bowl. I'm going to take some of that ponzu sauce. Again, lovely, lovely flavor. Pour that directly in over those noodles. We want to make sure that those noodles get totally covered in that flavor. So we'll give that a quick toss around. Maybe add some of those green onions in now. Oh yeah, I love this smell. This is nostalgia to me. I love this. So that tofu is looking so lovely and crispy. I just love this stuff. Put a couple in there as well, and we can finish with a couple on top. Again, a very inexpensive meal, relatively nutritious, tons of flavor, which is vitally important. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my bowl. We'll be pretty generous with this serving. Get that all in there. You can smell the flavors come off that. It's absolutely spectacular. And look at those red onions. Look how vibrant they are. Incredible. I love that. And you can feel they've become nice and soft. So I'm just going to put those directly into one little bunch. So while you're eating it, you can kind of choose your own adventure here. Those cucumbers are looking beautiful as well. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. So fun. So fun. I love cooking. I love food. Okay, that's looking great. We'll add a couple more of these crispy tofu bites along the top. Be nice and generous. We can add some of that green onion on top. This is party food. That's some of my favorite food in the world. It's stuff that you just want to eat, have a good time, enjoy it. Squirt a little bit of lime juice on at the end. Nothing complicated, nothing fancy, but I can tell you right now, that is going to be so fun to eat. Super delicious, very easy to make, comes together really fast. I can guarantee everyone in your house will love that. Those quick pickles, don't sleep on those. Make those, keep them in your fridge. They're good on absolutely everything. I hope you learned some cool stuff from this bowl. I love this. I make this a ton at home. I appreciate you for stopping by, spending some time with me, and keep cooking. I thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one.